going on, guys? It's been a while, but I've finally got a chance to do a new episode. So today I want to do a bit of a run through of the R31 drift car we've got here. We just did some work on it last week, took it out on the weekend. And you might have noticed we've got a new shop. That's probably part of the reason I haven't made a video for a while. I've just been so busy organising all of this and doing work on the side. So we'll do a bit of a tour and then put the R31 up on the hoist. We're in North Geelong, so if you're in the area, swing through, have a look at what's going on in here. It's usually quite a bit. There's a SR going into a Celica. That's a long-term project that I'm hoping to finish soon. S13 new motor. There's the mill all set up. Got another T51R mod on the go. Finished that today. Lathe, machine tools, tools, steel, tools, steel, more tools. So yeah, there's plenty going on in here. Press, time machine, cook tyres, utility vehicle, my ship box, the tip, and the car I'm going to put up on the hoist today and do a bit of a run through. Alright, there's the beast on the hoist. It's just a stock RB30. I did the stainless intake last week. More for looks than anything. Everything else on the car is pretty race though. It's got my lock kit in it. Full cage, seats, hydro. I'm not a fan of hydros personally, but it does the job in this. How good's having a hoist? I've been working at a auto parts joint and doing this shit on the floor at home forever. So loving life right now. Really lucky to have a bunch of people help me out getting into a full-time shop. Did a nice stainless exhaust for this the other week, and he's caned it already on the weekend. belt slap, smacked it getting on and off the trailer, blew a tyre on the weekend, wrapped it around the brakes and the exhaust. Scumbag customers, I tell ya. There's the important bit, the lock kit. This thing has now basically everything it needs as far as being on a track goes with this amount of power. We went and tested it at Winton on the weekend and I was really happy with how it went on the skid pan. I basically rate cars by how close they feel to an S13 in terms of when you enter, is the wheel responsive, can you put the car where you want it, in and out of a corner. And yeah, this thing ticked all the boxes, so I'll show you basically what I did to it. So the first thing we did was notch the K-frame to bring the rack forward, which is 100% necessary if you want to have any decent amount of lock. There's a few reasons, but the most obvious reason is because of steering bind, which is basically when the tie rod and the knuckle pass over centre and can't return. So you can see as we modify the knuckle and give it more lock, the tie rod becomes closer to straightening out with the knuckle in terms of that being in line with your steering knuckle, with your wheel. If that happens, it will pass over centre and what is called bind will happen, the wheel will lock up. You can see that if the rack was further back, that would be closer to being straight with the knuckle than it is now, because the rack's being moved forward. It's closer to the LCA. Lower control arms are off an S13. The whole front end's S13, by the way. It's been extended 25mm to give it more lock, or more room for lock I should say, more clearance for the wheel. You can see it's got this cute little notch in here, which allows the tie rod to fall right into it and just give you that last bit of extra angle. Caster rods have been converted to S13, so you basically just cut out the box there in the R31 bracket, drill a new hole for it for the S13 style one, and I had to machine up some spacers because they're a different size, different width on the S13. That basically makes the car feel a lot better. I'm a big fan of caster with drifting. I put as much caster as I can to all my cars because there's almost no negative side effect unless you go absolutely ridiculous. The other problem you have is with all the extension going on, the rack ends are too short. These are off a CE Lancer I worked out. They're about 330mm long and they match the TRW rack on some R31s, which is M16 by 1.5. That's one that catches out people all the time, end up with the wrong thread on the rack ends. Brake lines had to be extended, had to end up remaking the whole hard line because they're always rusted on dirty 30s. Yeah, you will find the factory brake lines are way too short if you do something like this. And as we can see here, the lead wheel has much more lock than the trailing wheel. That's called the Ackerman effect if you're not familiar with it. The way this car sits is basically exactly how I like it. I like the lead wheel to have a lot more lock than the trailing wheel. It's a trade-off in terms of speed versus control. So if your trailing wheel is matching the angle of your lead wheel, the car will be faster sideways at the expense of being harder to control, in my opinion and from what I've tested. But with the trailing wheel falling behind like that, I find you have much more control and ability to put the car wherever you want it in the corner. With these lock kits, the angle you get looks good, but it's not what it's all about. the feeling and the snappiness through the wheel, responsiveness, and the control you get is basically what I'm about. There's no point having all the lock in the world if the car is hard to drive. I jumped in this thing and it felt really comfortable straight away, which is basically exactly what I look for when I set up a car like this. As you can see, if I wanted to pull even more lock out of this car, the next problem I'll have is your trailing wheel hitting on the caster rods. So then we're looking at bent caster rods, no sway bar or a different sway bar that clears out of the way. And you know, probably air tubs, things like that, because you're going to start getting wheel into chassis if you have any more lock than this on a standard body R31 basically. But this is premium. I couldn't see myself wanting any more than this. It's not my car, but if I had one. Just a quick one, some people forget when they're setting up a car for lock to centre the rack. Like if you do a wheel alignment with the rack not perfectly centred, you're going to have more lock on one side than the other. And I've seen it more times than I actually thought I would when I pull apart someone's car. I think that's as much talking on camera as I can handle for one day. So I'll just cut to videos of him doing skids in it on the weekend. Do us a favour, check out the Insta and Facebook. Cheers.
the matter, Mr. Drifter?
Stay here.